go ahead and call to order the City of Two Rivers City Council meeting for Monday, June 21st, 2021. If you could please all join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Jamie.
Andrews.
Here.
Mark Bittner.
Here.
Jeff Dahlke.
Here.
Tracy Coach.
Here.
Bill LeClaire.
Here.
Darla LeClaire.
Here.
Jay Remiker.
Here.
Bonnie Shimulunis.
Here.
Adam Mohusky.
Here.
Thank you. All accounted for. We'll move on to number 5. We have a public hearing tonight. The public hearing is to amend the Municipal Code Section 10-1-25B2 to allow commercial kennels as a conditional use in the B2 business district. We're going to go ahead and ask folks in the audience if they want to come up to the podium. We'll do 3 calls. My right, your left. State your name and address. And then we'll go to the phones and do the same thing. And we'll do 3 calls there. And then we'll do a motion to waive the reading and adopt the ordinance after we hear from the public. So let's start with the first call. Please come on up. My right, your left. State your name and address. First call. Second call. And third and final call. Okay, Jamie, we're going to go to the phones. The number again is 920-793-5538, 920-793-5538. Again, we'll do 3 calls on the phone. Please state your name and your address regarding this issue. First call. Second call. And third and final call. We'll give you just a few minutes in case you're dialing. Okay, not hearing from anybody. I'm looking for a motion to waive the reading and adopt the ordinance. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Jeff. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mark. Any discussion regarding this? It is in your packet. It is packet number 7. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, it is an ordinance. I'm looking for not an ordinance, it's actually just a public hearing. We're still looking for adopting the ordinance. A roll call, please, Jamie.
Mark Bittner.
Aye.
Jeff Dahlke.
Aye.
Tracy Coach. Darla LeClaire.
Aye.
Bill LeClaire.
Aye.
Jay Remiker.
Aye.
Bonnie Shimulunis.
Aye.
Adam Mohusky.
Aye.
Kurt Andrews.
Aye. Thank you. Let's move on to number 6, input from the public. If there's anyone here, again, who wants to address council with anything on the agenda or would like anything on future agendas, please come up to the podium, state your name and address.
Across the bank block where Hamilton's used to be. The road. My wife was attempted to be passed on the bicycle with the leash over her head. This is a little nuts. Get the bus.
Thank you for bringing that up. Chief, I'm sure we'll probably look at that again. Is that something that the ordinance would have to, if we see it, we'd have to pull people aside? Do you want to address that? And we are coming up against the busiest time of year where bikes will be all over the place, so.
Yeah, it is against ordinance for some bikes to be on the sidewalk, and I'm sure what the gentleman is referring to are adults, not children, but generally children's bicycles are allowed on the sidewalk. There is a complete prohibition on bicycles in the downtown area between 12th Street and 22nd Street, Washington, actually from Adams to Jefferson. So there is some legality with it, but again, what he's probably referring to is adults that are doing it illegally. Yes, we can try and give more attention to it. It's a very sporadic thing, so it's hard to just sit someplace and wait for that particular bicyclist to come by. We are also very short-staffed, so it's not super high on the priority list, but we will do our best to give it attention.
Okay, probably wouldn't hurt to get the word out again through social media and other things too. Just a reminder that bikes are not allowed on the sidewalks. Please,
Yeah, we can put a posting on Facebook, which usually gets pretty good
Adam?
viewing.
Are they allowed on bridges? Is that correct?
They are.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, they're definitely
As one of
allowed
the
on
exceptions to that
sidewalks on
rule.
bridges.
Yep.
The only exceptions, as I recall, are bridges, and I believe all the bridges are signed for that. Riverview Drive by council resolution in, I think, the whole length of Riverview Drive, and it's signed for that. They're allowed on the sidewalks on the east side of the street.
Correct. Only
The
on
side
one
away
side,
from
yep.
the river.
Yep.
That's the only area, to my knowledge, that's ever been designated by council resolution, which the ordinance allows for. And then pretty much little kids learning to ride.
Yep.
Should
I
be.
think the wheel size is 13 inches, but don't quote me on that.
Okay, thank you. Mark, you had your hand up?
Adam asked my question. Thank you.
Okay.
They're allowed only on bridges.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And thank you for your input, sir. We'll do our best to make sure we keep an eye on those things and communicate that. Any other input from the public that anybody wants to address? This will be the last time we'll go to the phones as well for input from the public. So we'll try to, because of the mandate being lifted here, we're encouraging people to please come out in the future to council meetings and address us. That'd be better. But we'll talk about that at our next work session to make sure we're reinforcing that to the public as well and encouraging them to come out. For the number again is 920-793-5538. If you'd like to call and address us with anything that's on the agenda for tonight or anything on future agendas like we just discussed. Please call. Okay, we'll move on to number 7, council communications, letters, and other communications from citizens to anyone on the council. Mark.
Yes, I did have a citizen call me who expressed the same concern about bicycles on sidewalks. So I think that's something that we should publicly communicate and let people know about.
Great. Bonnie?
I have the same call from Mr. LaRose. I just want to say something that he said, and this is true. We who own property have to pay for sidewalks. We have to keep them shoveled and everything, and yet we can't walk on them. And it's a big problem where I live. The second thing, golf carts. I'm not going to vote for this thing in golf carts tonight. I want to see there needs to be rules for these golf carts. The one who called me got behind golf carts a couple times with 2 children on the back. There are no seatbelts for these kids. And the person is afraid of running them over is really what it is. I've seen golf carts with 2 children on the back. I've seen golf carts in the bike lane trying to stay to the side, which seems like a good idea, but they're so wide. It's not a bicycle. You're not passing a bicycle. I saw a golf cart with a man hanging onto the roof, sitting at the back of this golf cart. To me, it seems like a problem. I don't know what you think, Chief, but it does seem like a problem.
Chief is addressing the issue that Bonnie brought up from the public, or she witnessed.
Yeah. So I We have not had any complaints, or certainly haven't witnessed the kid issue that you're referring to. But and there is no prohibition as the ordinance is written now, for the age of passengers. There is certainly for the operator of the golf cart. As far as the person hanging or standing and hanging onto the top, that's completely illegal according to our ordinance as it is now.
He wasn't standing.
Okay.
I think he was hanging on because he was afraid of falling out. That's how unstable they must be.
There
I've
is
never
usually a
been in-
handhold, I think, up on.
What's that?
There usually is a handhold up on top that
Okay.
exists
Well,
there.
whatever. It just didn't look. I guess I wouldn't want to be the car behind
Yeah.
that cart with the guy hanging on.
And they are, and I'm not here to argue whether it's good or bad or anything like that. We have it, and it's in place, and yes, we are looking at expanding it, and I am not necessarily advocating that we don't make those changes, so I want to be clear about that. But they are supposed to yield the right-of-way, and I understand, that bike lane in particular might not be wide enough, but the legality there would be is that they should stop and allow, if it's not wide enough to allow a car to pass while remaining in the lane, they should just move over and stop and let the cars go by. That's what they should be doing. Each golf cart has a license on it. So if you see that, or if you talk to any of the residents that might bring these issues to your attention, please ask them to pay attention to the license sticker on there. It's fairly large. Generally, it's either on the back or on the driver's side back. And so if they could get the number, all they need is the number off of it. Starts with number 1, and it's up to, I think we're around 30. And that way we can address the issue with the owner directly. And when they don't need to leave their names or anything like that, we can just simply reach out to that owner and indicate that we've gotten a complaint and try and address it. Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you, Chief.
Sure.
Any other input from the public? Anybody got? Jeff?
Yeah, 3 of them. One of them was somebody in the 1900 block not cutting their lawn. I told them they need to talk to Public Works.
Perfect.
And also, let's see, there was another one about the audio video, but I talked to Greg about that, and they're working on that. The elderly couple said the audio video is not very good when they're trying to hear. And another one, people were worried about the scooters for the handicapped people. What is the ordinance for that? I mean, are they supposed to be on the sidewalk, or I've seen them in the street. I don't think they belong in the street.
I think
They're
Chief may have-
dangerous.
He's referring to like the rascal scooters or the handicapped scooters, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chief.
So you guys are taxing me today with my broad range of knowledge of ordinances. So they are considered assistive mobility vehicles, so they are generally allowed on the sidewalks and the trails. I know that is one thing that we are looking at to maybe make some modifications or add to our ordinance regarding other motorized scooters, because there are a lot of those showing up too. And whether or not we want to allow what we would call more of the kind of the skateboard type scooter, maybe it has the handle on it. But we are looking at making some modifications to the ordinance, and I think 1 or 2 of the council persons, maybe Mr. Bittner, I think, had addressed something with us earlier this year about what the legality, actually, I take that back, it was Mr. Cassavant brought it up, the legality of motorized carts and scooters on the Mariners Trail in particular.
Electric bicycles
electric
are another
bicycles.
one that's hot topic.
Those are showing up a lot. Skateboards that have motorized component to it, and I was actually really shocked to see one of those the other day. You can't even tell really that the motor's there. But as far as the scooters for people that have mobility issues that you typically see, those are legal to operate on the sidewalks and trails.
Brian, question there. I have seen instances where folks
In the
using
road?
those scooters where there is sidewalk available
Yeah.
are using the roadway.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think
that's
their
their concern was.
Yeah. I don't know what the status is, and I'm not sure if you can answer
I
off the
don't
top.
believe that's illegal, but I will have to do some checking on that.
Yeah, because if it is not illegal, we should probably be looking into that.
Yeah, I know.
Because it's
that there-
dangerous for everybody.
There are a couple of them, particular on Forest Avenue, that ride on Forest Avenue regularly.
Let's look into
Thank
that
you. We
further, and whether the city has the flexibility locally. Sometimes these issues come down from Madison as mandates, but we can look into that as to use of.
I'll check on
those.
on roadways.
Yeah.
That'd be one of those things we can put on a future.
I'm fairly certain they are because we looked at this quite extensively when we had a business in town that were doing the segways, and they fall in the same category as a segway.
Thank you. Jeff, did we cover all 3 years?
No, I got a couple more yet.
Got a couple more. Okay, Jeff's on a roll.
Then I got another call from somebody on Gulfview Drive wondering when they're going to rename that because there's no golf course there. They said, why is it called Golf Course Drive?
Okay. All right. Good question.
It was a good point.
That's a good point.
And then there was one more. And
Are naming rights available? Is that what you're saying? Okay, someone wants to buy naming rights for a golf course drive?
And then I did get a phone call on the way here that there's drug deals being done on 18th Street, right in front of somebody's house. And they were just wondering if they could get more. She's going to call you tomorrow.
Okay, good. Yeah, definitely. Anybody that's out there that's listening, if there are any concerns like that, they should definitely call the police department. They do not have to leave their name or any identifiers, but that information is very helpful to us to follow up on. Those kinds of things do not necessarily stop immediately. I won't get into the specifics on how we investigate those things, but the information is very useful and helpful.
Thank you. Anything else?
Oh, I had enough.
Okay, you had enough. Okay. Tracy?
I also received a communication on golf carts, only in this case, it was someone driving around with their pet dog, and they were busy holding on to the dog so they wouldn't jump out and trying to maneuver the vehicle as well.
Thank you.
I will vouch, Councilmember Coach, there are people that drive their cars and pickup trucks that way too, but it's not unique to golf carts.
Yeah. Or bicycles, so I hear
Oh,
you.
bicycles.
I always use two hands.
It's highly advised.
Anything else, Tracy?
Oh, that's it.
Anybody
Just
else
golf
get any
carts.
calls? I'm looking to my left. Nope. Looking at Adam.
I got an email in regards to billing payments for water and light at City Hall, that there's not enough, there's limited payment options available to pay their utility bills. I'm sure other people got that as well. And I also got one in regards to the splash pad, ice skating rink, that they don't like it being put downtown. But communication I got, I would beg to differ. But nonetheless, that is a communication I did receive.
A variety of opinions on that
Correct.
issue, for sure.
Yep.
Thank you for both those things.
Yeah.
Can we address the payment issue? Is that something we just?
Well, I know
can
that.
we communicate that
I
back
think the
out?
gentleman's here that sent a recent email on that. What we have on the agenda tonight for discussion is the cross-connection program.
Okay.
What I'd like to do is, although if council can always suspend rules to allow that, I'd like to see that go to the finance department, who might be very open to looking at those options as far as if it was as to credit card, debit card payments, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we can have finance look at that? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I would encourage that.
Okay.
Do you have the email, or do you want me to pass it along to
I
you?
believe that was one from Mr. Lucas that
Yes,
came
correct.
this afternoon, wasn't it? Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I do have it. I mentioned
Perfect.
to Dave Bush
I've
just
got it,
before
too.
the meeting that I would be forwarding it. And Mr. Lucas and I are meeting, maybe on a different topic yet, but we are meeting next week, too.
Okay. We'll pass that on to finance then. Good catch. And I think all of us got that email. Thank you for sending that in.
My
Mr.
suggestion would
Lucas.
be we can take it to staff and bring it back up if need be through the
Right.
Utilities Committee of Council.
That makes the most sense.
Yeah.
Jeff?
I would like to commend you, Mr. Lucas, for actually bringing some solving problems rather than just complaining. You know, it's nice to have that.
It's always good when you have a solution to a problem that's being
Right.
served up, right? That's a great idea. Anybody else? I got one contact from a citizen, besides the stuff that was mentioned earlier, and that was regarding the Graticus system. I already spoke to Greg about it, but the playback on the city council meetings, it was not working. So they went to try to find old council meetings that used to be on Facebook. You could go watch the old ones, and they weren't there. And it states it wasn't there. So I checked myself and then called him back and then left that information with Greg. and they're looking at what are we doing to make sure that they can go back and look at historically, if they missed one, how can they watch a meeting that may or may not happen? Do you want to give an update on that?
Well, with Granicus, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jamie, but with Granicus, it will not be available after the fact on Facebook. And frankly, if that's the case, we need to get back out there and purge those so people aren't clicking on them and it's saying there is no current meeting. Well, on a Tuesday morning, you kind of know that as a citizen. The meetings can be, and the most recent meeting was posted to the city's website. And I believe with Granicus, they can be archived there, and will be. So we are having some growing pains as that's being implemented, but look for some improved communication coming out on that.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. I want to make sure that we address the gentleman's concern and the rest of the citizens who might be trying to find that on the historical records, that we have a solution. We're working on making sure it's out there.
And before too long on Granicus, we should be up with the ability that you can go to a past agenda, click on a specific item, and go straight to the portion of the video that pertains to that. If, maybe you're not into watching a 3-hour council meeting, but you want to know what happened with your permit application or when the council discussed public input. Care to hazard a guess, Jamie, on how close we are to that? I know there's a number of factors. Okay. We hope within a month there.
That would be good then if we do have that set up in a month, what you're just talking about, would be good to give a demonstration
do a
to the
demo
public
of that.
so they
That would
know
be
how
great.
to use it and that it allows them that flexibility and capability. And it helps us all understand if we need to go back and look at stuff as well, that we can know how to access it. Okay, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Last but not least is making sure that we've got people who've got boats parked out in front of their houses on their lawns, that they're cutting their grass, and they're not necessarily using the grass as a way of thinking that they're boating, because grass is getting tall underneath the boats. So I don't know if we can make sure that we're checking that out when we go around the city, but
And they shouldn't be parked in front yards to begin with. So
yes, but
that's another part of the problem.
there are some that are. So.
Yep.
Okay, if there's nothing else, we'll move on to number 8, council reports from boards, commissions, and committees. Anybody want to give an update? Mark?
The Manitowoc Two Rivers Tourism Board met last week, and we're still working on some of the complexities of the contract. Hopefully we can get that solved and we get some more direction. And there will be a room tax committee meeting this week to further address from the Two Rivers standpoint of the contract renewal process.
Thursday, 10 a.m. Primarily closed session discussion there. But
Any other reports? Okay, we'll move on to the city manager report. Greg, you are up.
Okay, first up, you know what that is. That's our beautiful beach. If you count all the way to the South Pier, about a mile of sand on Lake Michigan, groomed daily. Looking good.
And they think Chicago's a magnificent mile. That's the magnificent mile, people.
Yeah. With the, you remember last year about this time we were piling big rocks up against the beach walk that's shown to the right there to save it from going into the lake. So at least it may be a little dry and they're having to irrigate the strawberry patch outside of town, but the lake is headed in the right direction. By way of updates, our major street projects, 24th Street is coming along well. The sanitary and water mains and connections or laterals are complete. The contractor is wrapping up on the storm sewer and storm lateral installation. We expect that the contractor will be doing grading and graveling in preparation for pouring curbs and paving starting the week of June 28th. So I'm being a little optimistic, and the contractor has some breathing room under the contract, but we're hoping they'll be in a position that Vinton, as the paving sub, can be in there in July, and we're not fighting the end of the construction season on this one, because 24th has come along quite well. We got off to a rocky start, and that's on us as a staff, but it's come along quite well, including dealing 2 weeks ago with about a 500-gallon fuel oil storage tank found in the right-of-way, as people used to stick them there, actually in this instance between the sidewalk and the curb, with product in it, but followed up on appropriately and no evidence of discharge or leakage. So, surprise. 25th Street, of course, got started a bit later. The contractor started at the west end of the project by West River Street and is working uphill toward the east to Forest Avenue. Sanitary and water main work is pretty well done, I think, Jim, in that first block. Whoops, and I just jumped out of there. They'll be working on laterals next week. Madison Street work is not expected to commence until all the utilities are in on 25th Street, so early July, probably sometime after the 4th for that. We're not doing a whole lot there just yet, but as far as scattered site water service laterals, 3 have been replaced. Ross, did we budget for 18 total? Do we have quite a few in the queue there?
We have enough that we can basically take care of. We have leaky curb stuff or curb stuff that are working, and we also have a list that we can go out to get, so we make sure we get all the.
Okay,
Ray, can you repeat that?
I'm sorry, yeah.
He's yelling from back, and I don't think anybody heard it on the.
We did apply for the state funding assistance for the private side to help the homeowners for a total of 18 at scattered locations. And Ross just confirmed that we hope to be able to hit all 18, either where we know there are leaks now that need to be attended to. And in addition to that, if we have to go beyond that, there are people on the list that have specifically said, I'd really like for you to come out, city, and replace my lead service lateral. And we're looking forward. We're confident the state will be offering that program again next year, and we'll see what kind of money is forthcoming. There's been some good discussion of that in the state budget and providing more funding. So stay tuned. We may have some more news on funding because we've still got nearly 2,000 lead service laterals in our system to deal with. Staffing updates. We are in a recruitment mode for police officers. The ads were out June 7th, ended June 7th. 26 applications are received. I was going from memory, but Chief, I think 15 interviews or so? Yes. Unless some have dropped out. 15 interviews are being done this week, so it's important to get some good people on board in those positions. We have a vacancy in the head cook position over at the senior center. We've done 1 round of ads to no avail. We're out with a 2nd round of advertisements. That is open until the position is filled. To be honest, though, we are also looking, the Parks and Rec director, the senior center director, and I have talked, and they've been looking seriously also about other options. We're one of the few senior centers that still cooks our own meals on site. We've always been very proud of that. It's just becoming really a question if that's sustainable from a staffing standpoint. It's the same thing people in the commercial food service are running into. If you can't get the people there with the skill sets that you can rely on to do those jobs. So we have a very capable assistant cook stepping up now as head cook, but we've got to get the position filled permanently or look at a plan B fairly soon. So stay tuned on that. We did get a resignation last week, Monday, kind of a surprise from our very outstanding head of Buildings and Grounds Maintenance here at City Hall. So we are in a recruitment mode with applications due July 7 for that position. That's the position that oversees maintenance here, makes sure the heat and the HVAC systems are running properly, and a very responsible position within the city. Update on the leasing program. Council authorized in tandem with the budget back in December of last year. It's been a while. Sorry for not giving an update sooner. You might recall the program for 2022 involved 21 vehicles. We completed the paperwork timely, got it in, and of 21 vehicles ordered, a grand total of 5 had been delivered. And you might have heard a cheer go up 2 weeks ago when 3 pickup trucks, amazingly 3 Chevy 2500 series pickups came in. But so far, all we have seen delivery of are 2 Chevy Equinoxes and the 3 pickup trucks that recently came in. And do look, Whitney, our part-time communications coordinator, has worked with Public Works and some of the departments on new logo and color schemes. So look for that to be rolled out. But we're just like everybody else. Even getting orders in well before the production cutoff didn't mean anything. And so that's meant a delayed start to the leasing program. David, I don't think there's any late-breaking update on that. No. And we've sent 1 vehicle to auction to Enterprise. We had an estimate for them at $6,000, not surprisingly, because every used vehicle selling for good money. We got $8,950 out of it. So stay tuned. In the meantime, there are a couple used vehicles that we've are shuffling around to other departments that got new pickup trucks so they can keep serviceable vehicles for their part-time staff. But we didn't get off to a blazing start here because of what's happening with the auto industry. New playground equipment is being installed this week. It's not here tonight at Neshota and Riverside Parks. The area has been prepped at both parks. Installation is supposed to start tomorrow, the 22nd, with concrete and wood chips following installation. We hope to see those areas ready for use by the end of the week. That will include the 100-foot-long zip line very near to the new playground equipment that's in the center photo there at Neshota Park, and the new play equipment over at Riverside Park, which I believe is the left-hand slide. Worth noting, and as you know, we experienced, thankfully, some fairly minor vandalism, but it's a darn shame when brand new equipment gets vandalized at all. Security cameras are also being installed, A, as a deterrent, and B, as a tool to bring charges and prosecute, if need be, should any more vandalism occur. So watch for some progress there. Hopefully kids, and at least in the case of zipline, people under 200 pounds can be, I'm watching that because I'm just barely able to use it, can make use of the zipline at Neshota when it goes in. We'll talk some more about it at the work session next week, but got a really wonderful chart from the Finance Department last week showing recent history of room tax revenues. You'll note up at the top, and that's kind of old news, but over at the far right, where it says total, we've been running 115, 116, 117,000 a year in room tax. Last year, as you know, we set a record at almost 142,000, up $25,000 from the prior year. Doesn't hurt to have a new 55-room hotel and about 35 vacation rentals now in the community. So far this year, you look at the yellow bar to the far right in each of the months on the lower chart, which is at least through April, the room tax revenues for 2021, and every month 2021 is outpacing prior years by a significant amount. And that's not just last year's pandemic level when all heck broke loose in March and April, but consistently every month, January forward. And we'll watch this chart and continue to update it with council with interest as the year goes on. But it's shaping up as a good year for our lodging establishments and visitor activity.
Greg, if I can, this will be part of the update for branding and marketing at the work session. We do it at the end of every quarter is what our plan was, and that'll be part of this and where that's coming from.
Yep. Yeah, thank you. Thanks to Finance for a very nice graphic. The picture tells the story quite well. As far as specific events coming up, we're headed headlong into summer activities this week. Just remind folks, Sunday, Thursday is this coming Thursday, the 24th, starting at 5:30 and running till about 8:30 over in Central Park. I don't even want to say the words, but if it rains, inside the community house. 25-cent Sundays, as always, inflatables, family entertainment, ice cream eating contest, the Two Rivers Community Band in concert, celebrating our status as birthplace of the Sunday. We welcome back Beach Bash to Neshota Beach on Friday and Saturday of this week. Depot Express and Head East on Friday night. Road Crew Detour and Mount Olive on Saturday. Adam could tell you about this better than I can, but I'll zip through it, and if I miss some highlights, please do chime in, Mr. Wachowski. Beanbag and Garbage Ball tournaments on Saturday. The water jet ski and jet pack show on Saturday night. That was very popular when that last appeared in the area. Carnival rides, up to 10 rides on 2 lots down there, so a nice place to take the kids for carnival rides both days. Drinks, food, and fun with no cover charge, all at beautiful Neshota Beach, all to benefit area youth sports activities. So, good stuff, and thank you for making it happen. It's also Cool City Car Cruise and Car Show Weekend, brought to you by Two Rivers Main Street, the 21st annual already. Friday night car cruise, of course, gathers at the UW Green Bay Manitowoc campus. That starts at 4. They head north into Two Rivers along Memorial Drive, starting out from UW Manitowoc at 6 p.m. There are food trucks and a beverage stand Friday night downtown from 4 to 9. A couple of bands, Dr. Bombay and Bare Bones Blind. Then Saturday, car show scheduled all day from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., again with food trucks and beverage stand all day, and a fundraising pancake breakfast at the Senior Center Saturday morning. So, good activities there. Dang it. Itchy trigger finger. Of course, 4th of July. We did 4th of July last year during the pandemic. We'll just do it bigger and better this year over at Walsh Field. The 18th annually 100% community donation-sponsored fireworks show. Activities start at 3 p.m. There's the flag-raising ceremony. The community band takes the stage at 7:25. Sponsor appreciation, highlighting all the sponsors at 8:30. Patriotic sing-along led this year, if I got it straight, by the Clipper City Chordsmen, directed by our own finance director, Dave Buss. Always great chance. You can sing loud and patriotic songs in a crowd. Nobody knows if you're off key, so I enjoy going there for that reason alone. And then at dusk, the nicest, most in-your-face fireworks show anywhere on the lakeshore, brought to you by the Pluckeln and Spielbauer Fireworks and all of the donors over at Walsh Field and the environs. We've got a full lineup of bands for bands on the beach throughout the summer down at the Two Rivers Rotary Pavilion at Neshota Beach. Music in the park, various offerings, and this schedule does not include the Saturday afternoon concerts that have been added. We'll get that corrected. But all of these can be found out on exploretworivers.com. This morning, for a Monday morning, at least for me, I got up a little earlier than usual, and Council President Andrews and I journeyed up to WFRV's studios in Green Bay for a 5-minute segment on Our Town, Two Rivers at 9 a.m. I guess we were on at about 9:30. Opportunity to share some of the branding video and again talk about upcoming events with the hosts of the Our Town segment. WFRV will be doing their 9 o'clock show on Friday from the bandstand in Central Park here, highlighting Cool City Classic Car Show. And we're looking to see if we can line up one of the area bands that's playing either for bands on the beach or the Central Park Music Series for some background music on that. Some great local advertisers. We saw an ad, a segment highlighting Formrite and its wonderful products this morning during the telecast, and we'll see if we can get that 5-minute segment up on YouTube to share with the community. But it was fun. It's always good when you've got a great product to sell.
Do you know, will the television station repeat this performance so we can see the stars? Community,
I don't know that they repeat it in the form of broadcast, but they do have the videos available on their website. We want to be able to post it as a YouTube video that folks can access. Yeah, it got rave reviews from the people that did see it.
By the way, we gave them some swag, T-shirts, coffee mugs, and really kept promoting Two Rivers and all the wonderful things going on all summer long here, including the magnificent Mile of Beach and the activities this weekend. So hopefully people will mosey on over and will continue to be front and center in their consideration set. So
it was a good week to make the appearance with all the things that were coming up.
And by the way, the camera puts 20 pounds on someone. So if I don't really look that big, I just want to go on record right now to say that.
Usually puts weight on the person to the left, I've heard, but that just might be a rumor. And again, for the most complete and up-to-date information on events and activities in Two Rivers, which the co-hosts of the show this morning had already been to, it's exploretworivers.com. This looks wordy. Just by way of update and under the heading of Legislative Intergovernmental Update, the funding assistance from the American Rescue Plan Act. Dave Buss, our finance director, took care of the electronic filing with the Department of Revenue on June 10. We got after the next day, or 2 days later, the email saying we didn't get your application. Then apparently they sent that to a lot of communities. They straightened that out and affirmed they do have it. They're looking to transfer out the funds by this Friday, June 25th. This year's distribution will be $577,000 and change, or half of our total allocation as a city of $1,555,645. The other $577,000 plus will be distributed in 2022. Funds basically can be used to make up for lost revenues due to COVID. We've fared pretty well through COVID. Extraordinary expenses due to COVID, or for investment in water, sewer, or broadband infrastructure, and they have to be spent by the end of 2024. We do still intend to come back to City Council to get clear direction as to where those dollars are to go. I think most things would point toward an infrastructure investment here in Two Rivers.
So I want to clarify, you have half the money this year, so they're going to send you a check, you can deposit that, then you have really almost 2 years to show them where you spent it to get forgiveness for that? Is that how that works, Dave? Yeah? Okay, thank you. So, good, cash the check, make a little interest, and we'll worry about the second half of the next year and then how we're going to spend it. Sounds great.
Yeah, and collectively, all of it has to be spent by the end of 2024.
Yeah, good.
So, still not nearly as much as entitlement cities like Sheboygan are getting, dang it, but it's money we can put to good use here in the community. Also, under the heading of legislative intergovernmental update, I did submit last week a request for a direct appropriation, which are earmarks, in another way of putting it, to Senator Baldwin's office. They had reached out and said, we're finalizing our list of appropriations requests, and she does sit on the Senate Appropriations Committee. There has been a call to various reps for some kind of earmark requests. I don't think every federal elected congressman or senator is submitting them. Senator Baldwin's office is. So I did put in a request for $250,000 to fund something for the federal government, to fund something with the Corps of Engineers we've been asking for as a city since 2018, and that is funding of what's called a harbor design deficiency analysis for our outer harbor. That goes back to the surge and the shoaling problems. We have a design deficiency analysis, which is a category of study called a Section 216 study. Really asks the question, is it a fundamental issue of the way the harbor was originally designed, which would take you back to the 1870s, as to why we have the shoaling and the storm surge? Most people believe it is because we don't have a dogleg or anything. Our harbor is oriented straight to the southeast, where a lot of the fall and winter storms, sometimes even summer storms, whack it pretty good. If a case is made that it's inherent design flaws in the harbor design that cause the problem, that could put us in a much better position to get 100% Corps of Engineers funding for corrective measures. This would build on the shoulders of the study that is highlighted there to the right. The city in 2015 entered into an agreement with the Corps of Engineers Detroit District, because we used to be under the Detroit District. Now we're under Chicago. In this instance, the city funded 50%. I think it was $67,000 city and the like amount from the Corps for a wave mitigation study. It looked at some of the same issues in a preliminary way, looked at issues like a rubble mound out in the lake that you could come in on either side of to get into the harbor, a dogleg extension of the South Pier jogging north to break some of the wave action and interrupt the sand movement, or a rubble wall straight ahead like a big shock absorber where the waves come straight in the channel. So down at Lot F, or soon to be River's End Park. But that only took it so far, and the clear feedback we got after that was, if you want the Corps of Engineers to spend money on what is a federally designated harbor here at Two Rivers, you need a design deficiency analysis done. 2 years in a row, 2018 and 2019, it was in the Corps of Engineers Detroit District budget submittal and work plan submittal to Washington. Both years it didn't get funded. Both years we were able to get a joint letter of support from Senator Johnson, Senator Baldwin, and Representative Grothman. So I'm hoping that maybe this time we can get that done and then continue to push for federal money to modify our harbor entrance. So that's a big deal if we could get that across the finish line. Expect an announcement this week on the status of the Wisconsin Shipwreck Coast National Marine Sanctuary. There should be a release coming out tomorrow as to the status of that. I shouldn't say anything more than that right now, but expect some good news with that moving forward. Just as a reminder, the state of Wisconsin submitted its application for this area off our shores, originally from Two Rivers to Port Washington, now from Kewaunee County to Port Washington, to be designated a National Marine Sanctuary. That was submitted over Governor Walker's signature in 2014. In 2018, that application was withdrawn, and then we had about 80 people with City Council sanction at a Save Our Sanctuary demonstration that took place here in Two Rivers. Some of you were there. And, of course, Governor Evers visited at the Wisconsin Maritime Museum about a year and a half ago to announce Wisconsin again supporting that application. Things look good for that to move forward. We'll have a more thorough update at the next meeting, but watch for a press release out this week from NOAA. Mark Bittner mentioned earlier, we still have the issue of a new joint services agreement with the City of Manitowoc and the Manitowoc Area Visitor Convention Bureau hanging fire, our third consecutive 5-year agreement where we share room tax monies from the two cities with the Visitor Convention Bureau runs out at the end of this year. As you know, by action of our room tax commissions, both cities have announced their intent not to extend the current agreement as written, and we're still working on it, is the best I can say. Room tax commission meets Thursday at 10, primarily closed session discussion, trying to see this thing move forward. I know the Visitor Bureau Board met last week. Manitowoc's Room Tax Commission has been meeting. We've got a ways to go to bridge some of the issues that are out there. And that's all I have for my report tonight. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Let's move on.
When does the current agreement expire? Is that at the end of this year?
December 31.
Okay, so there's still time.
Yep.
Yeah, we had to give notice by June 1st. Otherwise, it would have just automatically renewed for another 5 years. So that's why we gave notice, and we're working to get something done by September as our target date. Would you agree?
Yes. Yeah. It's not written in an agreement anywhere, but we've informally agreed between the two cities if we're going to get this worked out, we really should get it worked out by the 1st of September, because even then there are plans being laid for the next year's promotions, the visitor guide, and all those things. Yep. So we are committed to sharing about 52% of our room taxes with the VCB right up to year end. And then right now it's all up in the air.
Thank you.
To further answer Adam's question is, the City of Two Rivers believes in the Visitors Bureau. We believe that we're stronger together than separate, and there are certain issues that we're addressing to compromise some of the requests of our city. Hopefully we can resolve that. I think we will, and move forward. Visitors are an important element of economic development for the whole county, and we want to continue that aggressively, attract people to our community.
And while we've always been the smaller contributor or generator of room taxes, we're trending, like we showed in that graph earlier, we're trending in a real good direction. And our neighboring city, while they probably still were 3-1 in room taxes last year, but the trending has not been the same as what we've seen here. So we need each other for a lot of reasons.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the consent agenda. We've got a full one. So let's start with A, presentation of minutes. We've got regular council minutes for June 7th. Motion to waive the reading and adopt those minutes. We have some applications and petitions. We have 2 of them, as a matter of fact, for Class B license. Motion to approve those applications and authorize the city clerk to issue those licenses for both Main Street as well as the Rotary Club of Two Rivers. Moving on to another one, we have 1 renewal application for Class A liquor beer license for the period of July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2022. Motion to approve the application and authorize the city clerk to issue the license for that period of time. We have 8 renewal applications for a combination Class A beer and Class A liquor license for the period of July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2022. Motion is to approve those applications and authorize the city clerk to issue those licenses for that period of time. 25 renewal applications for Class B malt and liquor license for the period of July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2022. Again, the motion to approve those applications and authorize the city clerk to issue those licenses for the period of July 1st to June 30th, 2022. We have 12 renewal applications for beer garden permits for the period July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2022. Motion again to approve those applications and authorize the city clerk to issue the license for that period of time. We have 9 renewal applications for cigarette license for the period of July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2022, all over-the-counter sales. A motion to approve the applications and authorize the city clerk to issue the license for the period of July 1st 2021 to June 30th, 2022. We have 15 renewal applications for landscaping/tree removal license for the same period, July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2022. Motion to approve the application and authorize the city clerk to issue the license for those periods. We have 2 applications for commercial garbage hauler license recommended for approval. I'm not sure how to say the first one. Is it Pulaski's?
Pozorski. Pozorski.
Boy, you can tell I haven't lived here as long as everybody else. Hauling and Recycling LLC and Manitowoc Disposal. Motion to approve the application and authorize the engineering department. Yes, they can issue those licenses. And we move on to reports. We got minutes of meetings from 5 different meeting sets. Motion to receive and place those on file. Department reports for May of 2021. We have 11 of those. A motion to receive and file those. Last but not least, I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda with the various actions recommended. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the consent agenda with the various actions recommended.
Thank you, Jay. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you, Bill. Any discussion regarding what we just got done talking about, or I just went over? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Thank you. Let's move on to city council formal items. We start with a resolution proclaiming July 10th as Brian Lee Day. And I want to go ahead and have who's reading the resolution on that one?
I guess I'll read it unless, yeah, you got it.
You want to go ahead and read the resolution first or take a motion to have us read it?
Why don't you if you want, if you don't object, do the vote to read and adopt.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion to read and adopt the resolution.
So moved.
Thank you, Bonnie. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Adam. Without any discussion, why don't we go ahead and have you do the reading?
All right.
And then we'll go ahead and do the roll call.
Okay. This is a resolution proclaiming July 10, 2021 as Brian Lee Day in the city of Two Rivers. Whereas Brian Lee, by the way, born Brian Leroy Kumbalik, also known as the Braille Blues Daddy, blind giant of the blues, a New Orleans blues institution, was born March 16, 1943 in the city of Two Rivers, Wisconsin, and passed away at the age of 77 on August 21, 2020 in Sarasota, Florida. And whereas Brian Lee made the world a better place by dedicating his life to and sharing his God-given musical talent and love of early rock and blues, living by the creed that a gift is not a gift unless you share it. And whereas Brian Lee began performing professionally at the age of 13 in his hometown of Two Rivers and continued playing all over the world, touring the Midwest, Eastern Seaboard, Rocky Mountain states, Canada, Europe, and Brazil until the year 2020. And whereas Brian Lee recorded 18 albums over 4 decades, bookended by 1979's Beauty Isn't Always Visual and 2018's Sanctuary, appearing on various labels that included Just in Time, Sovereign Records, and Irrelevant Records. And whereas Brian Lee's achievements included a 2011 Grammy nomination with Kenny Wayne Shepherd, 2008 German Critics Award for Outstanding Blues for Katrina Was Her Name, 2011 Blues Music of America, I believe it is BMA Blues Rock Album of the Year, 2015 Big City Rhythm and Blues Lifetime Achievement Award, 2016 Legendary Blues Artists by the Blues Hall of Fame, 2016 Legendary Blues Artists, Florida Blues Hall of Fame, 2017 WAMI Lifetime Achievement Award, 2018 Phoenix Radio Lifetime Achievement Award, and numerous other Blues Society awards. And whereas Brian Lee was a remarkable soul who greeted each day with gratitude, optimism, and humble joy for all his blessings and gave immeasurable musical enjoyment to his legion of worldwide fans, now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Two Rivers declares July 10, 2021 as Brian Lee Day in the City of Two Rivers and urges all citizens and visitors to join in the full slate of activities planned for that day to commemorate the gifts of this talented son of Two Rivers as his music continues to enrich the soundtrack of our lives. Dated this 21st day of June 2021. And I might add thank you to Councilmember Darla LeClaire for crafting this resolution and really getting the ball rolling with communications with Brian Lee's family on his hometown paying tribute in this way. And there's a whole day of activities on July 10. It's going to be an outstanding day here in Two Rivers.
Great, thank you. Darla, you want to say anything more about the event and where it's going to be held on that day?
Well, it's kind of funny. This whole project started off very modestly, where it was just going to be a memorial bench, and it very quickly became an event. And there are going to be very well known and respected musicians who are going to be flying in from other parts of the country. Don't miss it, because there's going to be some fantastic music performed by entertainers who performed with Brian Lee, ever since he was living here in this city. And there's going to be a lot of participation from local musicians because of that connection. So put it on your calendar. It's not to be missed.
And where is it located?
It's going to be out here in front of City Hall. So it's going to capture the downtown area, and hopefully this is going to be the inaugural event for an annual music fest, which we've been discussing and trying to decide what's the best approach for that. But
Right.
that definitely is something that can come to fruition, I'm sure.
So Central Park, July 10th, put it on your calendar. Again, more details at exploretworivers.com if you want to find out more about it. But it should be exciting, and it's great to be able to prop up one of our own.
I love some of the names. I don't know blues artists in the area, but there are folks that played with Brian Lee locally from Two Rivers and Wisconsin. There are some folks of national renown flying in for the day. And there's a wonderful poster that's out there that's being distributed to businesses and is out on social media. But it includes, six-string therapy, Billy Flynn and friends. This is Darlene, my favorite, at least I know. Reverend Raven and the Chainsmokin' Altar Boys with West Side Andy. Yeah, those Chainsmokin' Altar Boys. The Milwaukee All-Stars. Kathy Greer and the Troublemakers start things off. So for those of you that are blues fans out there, hopefully that resonates. Otherwise, it's some really cool names anyway. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now that any other discussion on this proclamation or this resolution before we go to roll call? Seeing none. Jamie, roll call for this resolution.
Jeff Delkey.
Aye.
Tracy Coach.
Aye.
Darla LeClaire.
Aye.
Bill LeClaire.
Aye.
Jay Remiker.
Aye.
Bonnie Chimilunas.
Aye.
Adam Wahusky.
Aye.
Kurt Andrews.
Aye.
Mark Bittner.
Thank you. And let's move on to B, which is consideration for the proposed 2021-2022 strategic goals and objectives. These were sent out to everybody last week to get a chance to look at. They were actually constructed taking if you would, the template from last year's layout and how we addressed it, and worked through personnel and finance with Greg and various city staff to be able to have the strategic goals and objectives in front of you tonight for all of us, which is really our city goals and objectives for 2021-2022. So I'm looking for a motion to adopt the proposed strategic goals and objectives as recommended by Personnel and Finance. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Bill. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Tracy. Let's open it up for discussion. Mark?
I think the first point, and everyone's perhaps hopefully had a chance to read it, you'll see that the 6 primary objectives, very general. From the research we did, we found that the best city practice would be to have minimum numbers of primary objectives. And then the primary objectives were really what we, underneath each one of the primary objectives or goals, we tweaked the content to reflect the current year and some things that would be immediately resolved or should be focusing on to continue this. So it's, I think it's a good plan, and there was a lot of work put into this both last year and this year too.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or discussion items on this? Jeff?
Earlier this year, there was talk here of a 360 review. Is that something that can be inserted into this? I think that 360 review on everything citywide is a very, very good idea.
I think that's I think you should bring that up, and we should talk about it at Personnel and Finance. We talked about that before, having 360 reviews on staff. Last year, we did one on Greg. We actually got feedback from all of his direct reports. We should have one even on ourselves. How are we doing on it, right? So I like that idea, and why don't we maybe bring that to the committee and see if the committee can craft that out and bring it up to council. Mark, does that make sense?
I agree. We should put that on the agenda, because we did do it last year, 360 on Greg, our city manager, but I think we should expand that. It's a good idea.
Bonnie?
Well, I think that these goals should sometimes be brought up at a work session, because I have questions about some of them, and I'm not going to take that time here, but I think it should come to work sessions at least once a year and maybe twice.
Kind of like an update.
Pardon?
Kind of like an update. Every few months you go over them in work session and say how we're progressing.
Oh, I agree. I think
fine. Yeah,
we should
I
be able
agree.
to track the progress and how we're doing against these. I think with Bonnie, I don't want to read into what you're saying. You're saying you would have liked to have had this at a work session so we could talk about it as a group before it's being presented to be voted on tonight? Is that what I heard?
Well, that's okay, but I just mean in general, just so we can ask questions about what some of this stuff means.
Okay. That's why we try to send it out in advance too, but I hear what you're saying. Any other comments?
Well, that certainly we'll try over the coming year as staff to highlight when something comes before council, how does it relate back to our goals? Or sometimes we end up devoting, either you as a body or we as a staff, devoting a lot of time to something that's not on the list. Either A, should it be on the list, or should we be devoting the time and resources because it's not on the list?
I think that's a great idea, Greg.
Because this is an ambitious, I'm not trying to sound defensive from a staff standpoint, this is an extensive, ambitious list of activities in furtherance of the goals. There's a lot of stuff here.
But I do like the idea of these 6 main goals that Mark just described. If we're doing something, how does this impact goal number 1, goal number 3, goal number 4? Which goal is it helping prop up? And if it's not doing any of those, we shouldn't be doing it.
Or we miss something when we put the goals together.
Right.
Yeah.
Or there's a COVID issue that we have to punt and do something completely different off kilter. Any other discussion? Okay. So there's a motion, there's a second, because it is strategic goals and objectives. And by the way, I do agree we need to find a mechanism to update how we're doing against these on a regular basis. I'm looking for a roll call vote.
Tracy Coach,
Aye.
Darla Leclerc,
Aye.
Bill Leclerc,
Aye.
Jay Remiker,
Aye.
Bonnie Shimulinas,
Aye.
Adam Waleski,
Aye.
Kurt Andrews,
Aye.
Mark Bittner, Jeff Dahlke.
Aye.
Moving on to C, thank you guys. Moving on to C, follow up to actions at the June 7th council meeting regarding areas of the downtown to be utilized for car cruise and car show. June 25th and 26th, police department and other city staff recommend allowing use of the 2100 block of Washington Street, including allowing beer and open containers to go that far down on Friday night, June 25th only. On Saturday, the car show will make use of East and West Park Streets for additional show car parking. Those areas were previously approved for street closure and allowing beer and those open containers in that area. I'm looking for a motion to allow beer and open containers on Washington Street in the all the way out down to the 2100 block on Friday, June 25th, during that time that the street is closed to traffic. Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Bill. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion regarding this?
Chief can speak to this if you want, but after the discussion at the last meeting, the police department looked things over again, had discussions with Roger Russo from Main Street. Friday night isn't as big a concern, but with the detour on Saturday, because we've got not just the car show, I'm stealing some of the chief's thunder probably, but also Beach Bash going on, and it's just a busy weekend. The thought was that could get pretty tricky using that 2100 block. Then as we looked back and said, well, okay, if Main Street redeploys car show parking or show car parking to East and West Park, well, that was already covered with previous actions on street closures. So if council is okay with the one action that would be needed to get the car show's desires and the council's approvals in sync, would be what's in front of you.
Yeah, so following that meeting, I was actually approached by one of the members of the car show that organizes the placement of the vehicles and asked to reconsider Friday night only. After checking with the city manager, other members of the car show, Roger, and Quick Trip, to make sure that it wouldn't be a problem with them, we decided to allow that on Friday night only. We feel that it is, although we raised a number of concerns at the last council meeting, which I'm sure you recall, regarding the traffic that's around there and exits and entrances to Quick Trip. Given the fact that it's Friday night, it's only for a short duration. We think that it's possible to do it. One of the biggest things and one of the bigger issues that we addressed with the car show people is that it's really a lot about the end of it, and it sometimes can be kind of a haphazard thing where people start just moving barricades on their own, and that'd be a major problem at 22nd Street if that were to happen and cars start filtering in southbound while the car show is still trying to get people out. So we're just making extra efforts and working with the car show to make sure that that's a coordinated effort at the end so that there isn't any problem. So again, we're looking at it, and with the recommendation, we feel that it's doable on Friday night. We all concur, all the members that I spoke to from the car show concur that that would not be a good thing on Saturday.
So I just wanted a clarification. Are we stopping at 21st Street, or is it barricades going all the way to 22nd Street?
Barricades going all the way to 22nd Street on Friday night only.
Okay. Any other questions while we got the chief at the podium regarding this? Adam?
Do you think it's going to be safe coming in and out of Quick Trip on 22nd Street? That would be my only concern. But obviously, we want to make stuff happen for the car show. But
yeah, again, given the amount of time and being a Friday night, we feel that it will be safe to do so.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? All in favor of making sure we adjust the open containers to the 2100 block on Friday only, June 25th, during that time, and when the street is closed to traffic, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Thank you. Let's move on to D, discuss citizens concerning regarding water utility cross-connection control program. We've got two things to look at tonight on that. One is the background on cross-connection control program basis in ordinance of statute, the city inspections conducted by Hydro Corp since 2012. And then we have J.J. Lucas, who's here tonight, concerns regarding cross-connection control program. Follow up to the email he sent us last week, and we asked for it to be put on tonight's agenda, so it is. So we have a motion for council discretion. Staff recommends referring to the Utilities Committee if further follow-up is needed. But let's go ahead and take it to the floor right now and listen to the gentleman who came here.
Yeah, and I don't want to belabor the background you have, but again, and I understand Mr. Lucas didn't get a consistent answer on this when he was calling HydroCorp and staff and others. We've contracted with HydroCorp since 2012. They're based out of Michigan. They do close to 200 Wisconsin utilities for this program, which is mandated by the state. I think, and Mr. Lucas has cited as well. I don't want to take any air out of his discussion, but it's a fundamentally good thing. But how do we communicate it? How does HydroCorp communicate it? Program's been around for a long time, as I shared in some of the statistics. The residential residential properties are to be inspected on a 20-year cycle. It's tied to the same cycle that you're allowed by the PSC, as I understand it, for residential water meter replacement. Some utilities are on a 10-year cycle. We're on a 20. There have been a total, since the inception of the program, of just shy of 2,800 such inspections done at residential properties. I would expect many of you have had HydroCorp come out and do these generally pretty brief inspections. They're done with greater frequency at non-residential properties generally 6 or 10 years, although it can be more often. There's supposed to be a judgment made as to the potential hazards that exist, like is it a food service business, is it food processing business. Those inspections in Two Rivers are also done by HydroCorp, just FYI, and some other municipal utilities. The commercial or industrial properties have to make their own arrangements and pay the bill for getting such an inspection done. So there's background there. The message may not seem friendly at first. That's in all 3 letters. It says ultimately if there's not compliance, your water can be shut off. It can. If you looked at the material, that's in the state code. It's in our local ordinance. It doesn't mean that's the city's goal. I don't know how often we've actually done that. 0. Mr. Blaha affirms. But, sometimes people don't pick up the phone right away and make an appointment. So that statement is there. We haven't had to use it. I think we're always open to ways we could better communicate and better do this. And frankly, I don't disagree with the idea we ought to be looking at bringing this in-house as opposed to farming it out, too. Maybe it would be seen as more of a friendly hometown kind of service if the city were providing it.
So what you're referring to is pages 105 and 117 in our package, right? You just went through the...
Yeah, I would say 105.
Which also includes the 3 letters they would send out?
Yeah, and those are the standard letters that go out. Then there is an additional shut-off notice, if we actually got to that goes out from our water utility, in addition to those over on our letterhead from the consultant.
Is the frequency of the notices, how spread apart are they from the first notice to the second to the third? Just curious. Okay.
It does vary. In this particular one where I was tracking them for the property in question but redacted the address and name information, you see there was an initial letter that went out April 12, follow up a little over 2 weeks later on April 29, and then the third notice on May 11.
I just didn't know if that was consistent every time. The examples show that, but
I can't speak to that. So
I'll
be quiet. That's just for background. Mr. Lucas is here. Be happy to address council.
So we got the background. Mr. Lucas, would you like to go ahead before we go into any type of what we want to do or recommend? I'd love to hear from you if you don't mind, sir. Sure. Please come to the podium. And by the way, let's make sure the mic is on so the folks at home can also hear what he has to say. And I believe that's in, you were so eloquent to send us all this stuff that's in packages, pack number, oh man, I'm going to.
Starting at page 118, 118 of your packet.
118 to 127 in your packet.
Well, I should have sent a shorter, concise outline that I reviewed, or
well, you can give us
less of a rant.
You can give us a Cliff Note version, and we have the detailed one to look at. Thank you, Mr. Lucas.
Like I said last week, I support this program. I'm a proponent of the environment, anything we can do to make our public drinking water safer. Maybe my circumstances are unique, but the way this went about is the reason that I'm even here talking about this. The notices were April 12th, April 29th, and by May 11th, it was pretty urgent to the point that someone at City Hall or someone within the city government contacted the woman we're buying our house from and had this person who lives in Arizona, and I've never met her in person, make an appointment for HydroCorp to come into my home. They didn't ask me if that was a good day or time. And I just don't think that it's this serious. While I agree with the program, I was already calling and asking questions, and I had a prior appointment. I unfortunately made it during the week of Mother's Day, and we're a florist, so that was my fault, and that was quickly remedied.
Could you speak into your mic?
Yeah, the microphone a little closer. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So in looking at this, I think everything Greg said, we can re-examine this to see if we can do this a little better. I didn't get this packet until just now. It looks like Mr. Buckley outlined a few statutes and administrative codes, which might render my first section here null and void. But looking at Wisconsin Administrative Code 185.37 sub 2, which describes and pretty much is all about the way a municipality can disconnect or the reasons it can disconnect. It doesn't mention this SPS 38241, which is in each of these notices that the consumers get. There's nothing in there about that. It doesn't refer to that at all. And there's no mention of the cross-connection control program in 382. Looking at 382, this does mandate that municipalities have to comply with this program, but it doesn't mention the residents as like part of that. It doesn't say how the municipality can go about it. But when I called, every time I asked a question, and again, I'm not saying anybody said or did anything wrong, but everybody's referring to SPS 382.41, which it says the city has to do this, but it doesn't mention authority to shut off utilities. It doesn't mention forcing residents to do this. And it certainly doesn't say anything about within 1 month of the first notice that we're already to the degree of threatening to shut off utilities. So I think when a resident calls City Hall and asks about these things and they cite 382, they're not citing the proper authority. They're not citing anything that gives them, because when I went and read this, I'm like, okay, that still has nothing to do with my question or the issue here. It just says that the city has to do this somehow, some way. And the last thing I'll touch on, when I showed this to Dorothy, the first thing she said is, how or why is this a Fourth Amendment violation? Well, this is the government wanting to get into my home to look for cross-connection. That's the government searching. That's another word for look is search. So if we didn't do it, I'm moving on to the next section, if we didn't do it in a forceful manner, we might have much different results, and I probably wouldn't even be here, taking up your time. I'll just skip all the little small talk here. And you mentioned most of this already for me. I think we could do this better locally. We need more jobs locally. I think it'll be easier to keep all the information straight if we don't have a third party involved. Then Mr. Blaha would write the script for what everybody would respond when they call with questions, and there would be no incongruencies. I think that, I don't know how much we're paying HydroCorp to do this, but chances are if they can afford to do it like this, then we can afford to do it cheaper, because they're making money off of us somehow, or they wouldn't be doing this. And then I guess the last thing, as I just flipped through most of my outline and didn't read half of it, instead of after only a month of notices that we start threatening disconnection, why not offer something? Look at all the states, except ours, that are offering just wild prizes and rewards for getting a COVID shot. I need to go get residents in like one of these other states for a minute so I can get a truck or a prize, or some of them are giving away joints and guns and all kinds of crazy things. I think we can afford to give like a $25 coupon towards a month of utilities or something and get friendly and willing compliance to this instead of creating more hostility. I don't know all the answers because I don't have all the numbers and the information, but I'm pretty sure that there's a better way to go about this, because in my personal case, we're a small business owner. During COVID, we only had like 4 or 5 helpers. We lost them. Haven't really come back yet. I can't really afford it. I'm working like 100 hours a week just to barely keep our head above water. If I miss something like this, it's not the end of the world, and it shouldn't be such a big deal that I'm getting threats to turn off my water, or someone who I've never met is making appointments to come to let strangers into my house. So I think there's some ways we can improve on this, because I do support the program, and I think it's a good thing. And I think, how long has HydroTool been on this, and how many homes do we have done? When I talked to them, they said it's average of 20 homes a day, but they told me that they'd be in my house for almost a half an hour, so I don't know how their math works out. But I'm pretty sure we can beat those numbers and beat that price and have a lot more friendly compliance. So, thank you for your time.
Mr. Lucas, thank you for the thorough examination of all of the different codes, as well as all the recommendation. And right now, what's on the docket for us tonight is, we can make a motion to recommend to the Utilities Committee to do further follow-up based on what we heard from Mr. Lucas, whether we bring it in-house or not in-house, what's the cost difference. We probably, as council, would like to know that, and see what we can do to maybe provide a very friendly, maybe not necessarily offer up some illegal substances, but offer very friendly ways of getting people to help us out. And right now, as you said before, we've never shut off any water. But even the threat of it seems a little bit, it comes off negative. So does that make sense for us to go ahead and get the Utilities Committee to look at this in more detail and come back with a plan? Could I get a motion according to you?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Jeff. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Any more discussion regarding this? Bonnie, you were going to raise your hand? Or you're going to make a
Well, I
motion?
just wanted to explain to people who might be listening, because I've had this cross-connection thing. They basically give you a little thing to put on your spigot so that the water doesn't go back into the system. And it's really quite simple. And he just came into my basement to give me more nozzles to put on my spigots. I even can do it myself.
I mean, we should never sit here and assume we can't improve on things we're doing.
Right.
I don't know that 2,600 inspections into it, we need to look seriously. I'm going to sound a little dubious. We need an incentive. I don't need I want my $25 gift certificate. I had my inspection done years ago.
I think it's just an idea throughout. Yeah. But I do think that if the motion right now is to go to the Utilities Committee and let them come back, they may come back with that idea. They may not come back with that idea.
Right.
They may come back with, we could save a lot of money as a city doing it ourselves. Maybe a little bit more a positive approach. And I think we're right now we're in that discussion of let's let the Utilities Commission do a deep dive on it. Is there any other discussion regarding this? Mark?
I personally experienced this too several years ago, and I had to reschedule I think twice, and it was easily done to meet my schedule requirements. And as I understand, there's just certain times that this particular group is in the community, and I had to pick one of the times or the third time that they would be in the community. But I went through. I personally didn't feel threatened on it. But what I am intrigued with the concept that you brought up is maybe ways to improve it is there, and your point about the group or the organization itself doing it, if we could do it in-house, if it would be more cost-effective. So I would support a review to analyze that to see the cost-effectiveness and see if there's a better benefit. And I think the wording in the letter was recopied from the state requirements for us as a city to comply to that. I don't know how we can soften that up from the state, because states sometimes are pretty cut and dry. But whatever we can do to make it easier, I would support that.
Any other discussion regarding this before we vote?
That's fine with me.
Yes, go ahead.
They only have times 2 to 3 days per month, and they don't know those dates until 2 weeks ahead of them. Like, that's why I have an appointment for August right now, because it was the only date they had open.
They're probably running the same problem everybody else is, with probably staffing issues and probably restrictions on where they can go, what parts of the city. But that's a good point. It is tough to work around everybody else's schedules, and in some cases that happens. It'd be a lot more flexible if it was maybe done in-house, who knows? Any other discussion?
I didn't experience that limited. It was a block of days that they were in the community.
Mark, it might be changing because of COVID and workforce and everything else right now.
I don't know what that, but again, we could look into the dynamics of that. But
Okay, so any other discussion before we go ahead and say all in favor? I'll say it right now. All in favor of this?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Thank you, Mr. Lucas, for bringing this up. Thank you for the draft you gave us. It's a good working document to start with. And our Utilities Committee, I'm sure, will get all over this to figure out what we can do to continue to improve our relationships with the citizens in town. Let's go to E, Ordinance to amend the Municipal Code, Section 9-6-4G, entitled Responsibilities of Owners, to include provisions providing a person from discharging water from its swimming pool onto property not owned by that person. So first of all, I'm looking for a motion to waive the reading and adopt that ordinance, and then we'll get into some discussion. So do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Adam. Do I have a second?
Good.
Okay, are we going to take a look at, this is number 128, correct, in your package? And it's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, this came about, and I think it was a neighborhood situation that Councilmember Wachusky reported first to Vicki Berg and inspections, and then it got some follow-up action. If I'm recalling correctly, the language that's currently in the code about discharging or directing storm water or water from your downspouts or your sump pump or anything else onto a neighbor came up when the city council adopted our stormwater utility. So it is also a problem. What did we say at Plan Commission last week? A 15-foot diameter above ground pool that's 4 feet deep has about 4,000 gallons of water in it. So if that all gets unleashed at once through the side yard onto your neighbor's property, it can be a lot more water than any downspout or sump pump would deliver. And this would be a specific reference to that activity.
Plus, it's also got chemicals in it that some of the other stuff doesn't have.
Probably a
correct?
little more more highly chlorinated than your municipal water, usually.
Okay, so we have the ordinance in front of us. Do we need to read anything more on page 128? Any other discussion regarding what's in front of you regarding this ordinance and the addition of water from swimming pools? Well, the only addition we're putting on here, correct?
Yes, and then we've just provided for information is the swimming pool permit application, which is required for placement of a above or in-ground pool, with the notation that this provision would be added if council approves the ordinance tonight.
So that's number 6 on this sheet on 129, right?
Right.
Okay.
And
Any other discussion, Mark?
I have a question. I can understand where this would be a problem if it's just dumped in the backyard. I could see it flooding, and the chemicals in the pool might kill the lawns and everything else. But just as a question, assuming they don't have a route to do it, and their street doesn't have a septic pump, I forget the term is, Jim, for septic pumps is discharge water. What would be the correct way to do it? Just put the hose on over the curb and let it run into street?
The question's being asked, do we provide a solution if they can't just dump 4,000 gallons of water, as the example Greg gave, out into someone's yard? How would they dispose of the water or siphon off the water to
I wanted
make
to
it,
go in your neighbor's yard. I can
Right.
appreciate that.
to get it to the street?
No? Yes?
Yes.
It can be dumped down the sanitary sewer if you have a means of getting a hose to it. It came from the water supply. It is simply contaminated with a little chlorine that will do nothing to our sewage system. So it can be dumped there. Additionally, if you just let it sit for a while. It will dechlorinate, aerate it, et cetera, et cetera. It is okay if you run the water through the grass, for example, then into the curb and gutter system slowly. That's the only real key there.
Mark, we can't hear you, sir.
Running through the grass, depending on the slope of your lawn, could go into the neighbors too.
Then you got a problem.
No, you need to run it to the curb through the grass.
Right, but again, Jim, between the curb and your grass, depending on the slope of your lawn, it may not go directly to the curb. It may go somewhere else if you run it through the grass.
Then it should go to the sanitary if you can't use that option.
So I would make a recommendation, as long as we're all talking, then, that we put the solution in part of the description. If you're talking about taking a $50 permit out for a pool, I would want to know, okay, then how do I dispose of it? If I'm taking a permit out and I'm going to empty my pool, what do you want me to do then if I can't just open up the floodgates and let it just go everywhere? Just simply run it to the...
I did not see the packet, but Vicki was going to be adding a little NUSC flyer to the permit application.
On Renew Our Waters, page 130, fish don't swim in chlorine.
That's the one.
Yeah. Help me out. We want people to engage in best practices. Is it prohibited by law from discharging chlorinated pool water directly to the storm sewer?
Yes.
Okay.
But you can run it through grass if you want, or you can also chemically dechlorinate it, or you can simply let it sit and it will dechlorinate by itself to the atmosphere.
I think it was
You
said
can
earlier.
simply run this right to your curb, right? Right.
If you run it through the grass slowly, yes, you can.
Perfect. That sounds
That
pretty
will
simple.
dechlorinate it as well.
So that might just mean discharging it at the private edge of the sidewalk across, if you have a terrace, that
your
would serve
terrace
as
with
as a
grass?
buffer
That'd do it.
in an area where it could dechlorinate more naturally.
Yep.
It was said earlier that it's nice when someone comes up with a solution to a problem. I think, Jeff, you might have said that. Well, Mr. Lucas is coming in with that. It would be nice to have a solution to this problem, if it's a problem. So if I got a pool that's full of water, what do I do to empty it? I just add that, give them some examples of how they do it, or how they could do it.
Well, that's what the flyer's intended to do, but they can have us,
But this is
they
given.
can call our office. And
Is this given the same time as this is given?
That's the intent, I believe, going forward.
If I could, there's a swimming pool permit application in your packet. We can add for number 6, discharge of water, and explain exactly how they put the hose to the curb or dechlorinate it and then into the grass. Number 6, it says discharge of water. Water from the swimming pool shall not be discharged in any manner onto property not owned by that person and shall be considered a public nuisance. So we can further explain how not to put water on your neighbor's property.
You answered my question. That's
Okay,
perfect.
if we need to be even more explicit than that, we can.
I would help them out.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank
Any
you.
other discussion on this?
Well, and you might want to add to it, and that would be a good solution, Elizabeth, add which I didn't realize, if you let it sit for a period of time, itself, the pool filled with water, dechlorinates naturally too. That might be added to that, because then you'd even have a less contaminated water discharged to the curb.
Well, that could depend on the depth of the pool and all of those as well. So we could be getting into a lot of explanations, but we certainly can do that if we want to get to the volume of the pool and how deep it is and all of that. Or we could simply tell you where you can put the water.
I think that's the solution, is where you
I
put the water.
think we might
And
want to.
rather-
Otherwise, we're
rather-
going to get into a lot of
Yep.
explanations here.
Any other discussion? Jeff?
Chances are somebody's just using a sump pump to take it out with an 1.5-inch hose anyway. So, I mean, this whole thing is, we're making a big deal out of it. It's not rocket science.
Nope. Well, just to let them know that don't dump it to your
We
neighbors.
just need some clarity, that's
Run it to the
They
thing, that's
can
it.
call our office and we'll help them.
Right.
The big thing is don't collapse the wall and just let it dump.
I like
onto
the
your neighbor.
addition that you
That's
talked
what
about,
happened.
Elizabeth, that'd be fine.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
Any other discussions? We can go to roll call on this because it is an ordinance change. See none? Jamie, you are up.
Carla Leclerc.
Aye.
Bill Leclerc.
Aye.
Jay Remiker.
Aye.
Bonnie Shimulunis.
Aye.
Adam Waleski.
Aye.
Kurt Andrews.
Aye.
Mark Bittner. Jeff Delkey.
Aye.
Tracy Coach.
Aye.
Thank you. Let's move to F, ordinance to amend the municipal code Title 8, Chapter 9, pertaining to the operation of golf carts on city streets. A motion to waive the reading and adopt the ordinance. I need a motion and a second before we go into some discussion here. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Jay. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mark. And let's go into, Chief, are you going to read this ordinance? At least the summary on page 131.
Council members will recall this came from a direct request from a local business, local citizen, pertaining to commercial use of golf carts.
Yes, so it was about a month or so ago, we met with that business owner in a work session, and they expressed their desire to utilize golf carts for some commercial use. I think everyone had received at that meeting a email from them with some suggestions, and I think we all, at least the consensus that I remember, was that we all felt that it was something that we could do, and so we worked to put that language together in the ordinance. In front of you, you have a number of changes to the existing ordinance. Those items are all highlighted in yellow. Hopefully you have it in color, otherwise it might be gray. The things that are lined out are obviously deletions, and the things that are underlined are additions. So the majority of them are kind of cleanup, just making the wording a little bit easier to understand and getting rid of some extraneous words. The bulk of what we're talking about tonight is actually in G, 896G, under commercial purposes.
Page 135 of your packet.
Yeah, and actually, if we look one up above that F, that'll kind of set the stage for some of it. So in F, it indicates golf cart capacity. The original passage there, parts of it are struck out, but what it'll now say, if you approve, will be the manufacturer's recommended seating capacity shall not be exceeded, nor shall the operator or any passenger be permitted to stand while the golf cart is in operation. So all we're really doing there is just basically making the standard that you can get a golf cart of, for the most part, any manufactured size, whether it's a 6-passenger or 8-passenger or 4-passenger, you just can't exceed the manufacturer's recommendations. So that golf cart is designed to hold X number of people. There's seats and safety equipment by the manufacturer, and if you exceed that, you would be in violation of the ordinance. So then you get into G under the commercial purposes, and this would be for the purpose that the business owner had asked. So they were talking about utilizing golf carts for a shuttle service, to shuttle people maybe from a hotel to their venue, that sort of thing. And so this addresses that. Golf carts may not be used as a taxi cab or bus. The reason why that is there and remains is because then we get into a whole host of other requirements by statute and some issues regarding payment and things like that. So we're just talking about a shuttle service here. So the commercial carrying of passengers is permitted to the extent that a business or organization may use a golf cart as a shuttle in direct connection with said business or organization, and then only to the extent that the passenger capacity is not exceeded as noted above. So again, it refers to that manufacturer's recommendation about seating. The reason why it's worded the way it is regarding business and organization and for that business and organization is because then you start opening the door of someone having a golf cart and more or less turning it into a taxi service if they're doing it for some other business or for some other entity. So we're keeping it in-house where they have control of their golf cart, who's operating their golf cart, how it's being utilized, and so forth. Then we get into 2, hauling of freight. Although this was not necessarily asked for by the particular business owner, we didn't necessarily see any issue with expanding upon that, again, as long as we follow some manufacturer's recommendations. So in this case now, then there would be the hauling of freight is permitted to the extent that a business or organization may transport products or materials in direct connection to said business. So if you were a Avon salesperson or something like that, and you wanted to use a golf cart to transport your product to, your buyer's house, you could do that. The transportation of hazardous or flammable material is prohibited. It seems pretty obvious. Freight in combination with the operator and any passengers may not exceed the cart's manufacturer's gross vehicle weight rating. And again, just to make sure that someone's not overloading it, and that's in combination again with passengers. So that you're not have 8 passengers and then a full load of stuff that well exceeds the vehicle's capacity. And then very simply, one of the other things was rental. We thought that, we'd have to do a lot to open that door, but in reality, I think it's pretty simplistic. The rental or use of any golf cart for the consideration shall be considered a commercial use. So what consideration means is that you're receiving something in return for it. I guess it's probably and Jack can probably give you a better legal definition, but if you are asking to be paid for utilization of it, then it's considered a commercial purpose. Go ahead.
So just to make this pretty plain and simple, if someone wanted to open up a rental business for renting out golf carts in the city, this would make it legal.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And so the thought, some people have the thought, and I'll just explain this, is that, they're very focused on the passenger and operator side of it. That's in the ordinance. That's a requirement. So it doesn't really matter who is operating. They have to follow the guidelines of the ordinance. So what this ordinance talks about when it comes to the golf cart is really regulating the golf cart. That's what we're giving the permit for. We're not saying who can ride it necessarily. Obviously there's conditions there, but we're actually licensing the golf cart, and we always have. So for example, if I were to go and get a golf cart permit, the police department's coming and doing an inspection on the golf cart, and we're approving the golf cart. That doesn't mean that me as the owner and the one that got the license is the only one that can operate it. So really, from a rental standpoint, it's kind of in our eyes, it really is, I don't want to say a moot point, but it's not really the issue. It's really more about that the cart is able to do what it's supposed to, that it meets the criteria of the ordinance, and then whoever's operating it has to follow the guidelines, and they're responsible for it. And then we get into, this is a complete addition as well regarding the golf carts and the liability insurance. I won't read this all unless you want me to, but this falls in line with other ordinances that we've recently adopted regarding the limits. And we felt that it was necessary because if you're going to use it for commercial purposes, that brings the golf cart into a completely different realm. And so therefore there should be different liability requirements for that. And then lastly, made some change to the penalty area. Again, it's really not changing a whole lot. It's just kind of cleaning up the language to make it a little bit more consistent with other ordinances and clear as far as what those fines actually come to. So under most circumstances, whenever we issue a fine, there's always the court costs that go along with it. We like to make sure that that's enumerated in the ordinance so that people understand that, because they get very upset when they think it should be one thing and then you tack on the court costs, which add another, $50 to $100, and so we want to make sure that that's clear. So it's just clearing up the language, making it consistent with other ordinances.
Great. Any other discussion or questions for the chief while we got it? Mark?
I think this is good. I like what you did. I think if we have citizens who see reckless drivers that Bonnie brought up earlier and make reports of the numbers of the golf carts to the police department, we fix that part of the problem. But just so there's no surprises, the original business that brought this up talked about the positioning of the seats forward. It's standard, and I've lived in a community that had golf carts as a means of transportation. It's very standard to modify a typical golf cart with 2 seats forward and add 2 seats that face rear. In other words, the passengers are sitting, it's a 4-seater capacity, but they're not looking forward. They're looking to the rear. And that I just want to point out that will evolve. We don't address that situation here, but that will evolve because that's the standard way to modify a golf cart from a 2-seater to a 4-seater.
Yeah, and actually, I think we do address that circumstance, not specifically, but in general would cover that. So in the ordinance, there is a section that talks about the reasons for denial of a license, and one of the things that would be grounds for denial would be modifying the golf cart and any safety equipment. And so if someone were to just simply add on some seats to the back, that would not comply with manufacturer's recommendations, and it would be a modification that may affect the safety of the golf cart. So as long as it's being done properly, and if there's like a retro kit, let's say, for example, that you can buy from the golf cart manufacturer and add on to that golf cart, and it doesn't in any other way exceed the capacities or its manufactured specifications, then that's not a problem. But, if someone just decides to take some lawn chairs or something else and make some makeshift additional seating, then that would be a problem. If I'm understanding your
Well, and I do think we'll see there is an adjustment modification that was probably approved because the city I used to live in had strict regulations too. But there's a modification you can buy from the manufacturer that will create the back space where you have the golf carts.
Yeah.
It just extends the rail, so you can still hook carts, but it puts 2 seats in the back, and the 2 people who are sitting there modified.
I don't think
and that would be fine.
I don't think she was addressing putting a 4-seater. I think she's addressing an 8-passenger. I've seen some of the pictures of what they're looking to buy or do,
Sure.
and it would be everything from think about it, a 1915, replica Ford old car, but it's a golf cart that's going to be able to travel people back and forth from their facility to the restaurant or to the hotel. That's what they're looking to do. The four-seater, by the way, just to add your thing, for example, and I'll confess, I just bought a golf cart from a gentleman who was leaving town, but ours has seatbelts all the way around, including where you sit in the back, you're facing the back, you have to have a seatbelt on. So it's got a seatbelt, blinkers, turn signals, lights, whatever it has on it. It's all street legal. But seatbelts are what I would say if the police are looking at a rear sitting situation, that should probably be something we consider having as part of the equipment, if you would.
We could.
Well, and mine did have seatbelts too. The packet I bought.
I'm just bringing it up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would say that if you as council would like to make that as amendment when you're approving this, that we add the language in here that it has to have seatbelts for rear facing. The way the ordinance is written right now is that any safety equipment that's provided by the manufacturer has to remain, that you can't remove it.
I think that's perfect. Any other discussion regarding this ordinance?
If I could just add one other thing, because sometimes some people don't always understand this. This is also with golf carts. This falls under 346 of the Wisconsin statutes, which means rules of the road. So all those things regarding the rules of the road, like open intoxicants and things like that, all apply to golf carts. It's all consistent.
Any other discussion by council? Yes, Jeff.
No, I'm for this for new businesses, for the golf carts. But as Bonnie stated before, I mean, she had 3 or 4 instances where there were problems and there's only 30 permits. I mean, that you're at a 12% failure rate on people. I think we should look at this whole thing and think about taking them back away, except for business use. You know, there's really no reason. It's just a little bit of a convenience for a person, that's all. This falls all right back into the ATV, UTV stuff. It should be all or nothing.
Well, that's exactly where we were going with the ATV, UTV, and not to reopen up a wound or anything like that, but if this is a concern with 30 golf carts, imagine what it would be with ATV and UTVs, which are in a completely different ballpark. But what I would say about that, and I understand all the concerns, and I'm not here as an advocate for golf carts or anything like that. I'm just trying to be impartial and look at it from a law enforcement perspective and make a staff recommendation. I would say when it comes to the golf carts, if there are issues like that, all I can do is I can't say this enough, is people have to report these things and let us know about it, because we can't be everywhere and see all of these things all the time. And so, like speeding, like other traffic violations, those things happen all over town, and we obviously can't see all of them all the time. They happen sporadically, and they happen here and there. And so reporting those things to us, and you don't have to leave your name, and we can simply have a conversation with somebody and try and correct those things so that they don't turn into a tragedy or continue to be a problem for someone in the community. So please report any issues so we can address them.
I would agree. No different than the bicycles. And the max speed, if you look at the ordinance, is 20 miles an hour. So it's a little different than what you described before as far as the ATV and UTV.
Yeah.
Yes, Mark.
Bonnie's citation of several calls, it could be the same individual too. It doesn't necessarily mean that we have 4 offenders of 30 to create the large percentage.
But that's not necessarily true neither. It could be 4 different people.
We don't know that it's 12%.
Yeah. So the ordinance in front of us is for commercial, and I heard you say you like the fact that it's commercial. It will help the businesses. And actually, it'll be kind of interesting. And if you've been to other areas where you've seen, back, Jay, to your point, golf cart rentals as a business, and for the summer or for a period of time, allowing other people to enjoy them and potentially make some money for a small business. I've seen it in areas such as, there's a lot of places in Florida that have it, right? Especially year-round, that you can go rent and enjoy golf carts and skateboards and e-bikes and other things that are all on one lot. So it could be a great opportunity for someone to be able to have a business. Who knows?
Tourist attraction too.
Yep.
Well, and I think the one example that was cited was if we had a bed and breakfast and you had a golf cart, and that was an amenity or consideration, as how we would look at it, is that you could use that golf cart if you were to rent the bed and breakfast.
As long as it passes the code and it's been inspected.
Yep.
Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, this is an ordinance adjustment. So Jamie, you've got to do a roll call.
Bill Leclerc.
Aye.
Jay Remiker.
Aye.
Bonnie Shimulunis.
Aye.
Adam Wahusky.
Aye.
Kurt Andrews.
Aye.
Mark Bittner. Jeff Delkey.
Aye.
Tracy Coach.
Aye.
Darla Leclerc.
Aye.
And there will be golf carts in the parade that I think are going to be up for Snowfest. So they're organizing the handful of golf carts to be there to help salute the Snowfest is back in Two Rivers, just to give you guys a heads up. Moving to G, thank you for that. A review of developer responsibilities per addendum 5 to redevelopment agreement for Washington Highlands TID 8 redevelopment project. Waiver of additional penalty to apply if 3 duplex condominium structures are not completed by June 15th. If you recall, we actually have this in front of you. It's a packet number 138. We asked Mr. Lucas to get these 3 done by June 15th. If they weren't done by June 15th, additional penalties would happen. Because of we're looking for a motion to extend the completion date from June 15th to September 30th due to supply chain issues impacting the construction industry. He's got 3 of them up. He's got most of them, 2 of them almost done. But we're recommending through Personnel and Finance Committee that we redirect the city manager to prepare an addendum on this council action and give him a little bit more time. We all know what's going on in the lumber industry. We all know what's going on in the concrete industry, the trade industry, and we felt it was only the right thing for us to do to give him an extension of 3 months. So that's what the motion is in front of us, is to extend that deadline from June 15th to September 30th. Do I have a motion?
Mr. President, I'll make that.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion regarding this? It's in front of you. Package 138, 139, and those are the 2, and 140 is what Mr. Lucas sent a note back asking for a little bit of relief. Bonnie.
You know, he's been doing this a long time. I would prefer to see him get 1 done by September, because there is no guarantee that prices are going to go down. In fact, they probably won't. So if he's having problems now finishing this, he's going to have problems then. I don't care if you want to give him some leeway. How much leeway do we give somebody? That's all I'm asking. I'm going to vote no, just because if you said 1 and he actually got it done, that would be kind of nice.
Any other discussion?
If I could just...
Jay? Hold on, let me go here.
That's fine. Thank you.
I'm with Bonnie on this one. We've been through this with him once, twice already, giving him more time, getting things going, and I think he should really keep moving on. But I mean, everybody's got to deal with it. It's just not him. It's everybody's got to deal with it, and everybody's dealing with it. It sucks, I understand, but I mean, to give him more time. I mean, he's been doing this for how many years now?
Okay. Thank you. Any other discussion regarding this? Hold on a second. I got Mark over here.
Sure.
I'll go to council first, Mr. City Manager.
However long you want to take. I'm
Okay,
here. I'm
Mark.
here all night.
Well, member of the Personnel and Finance Committee, we did create something we've never done before. We made Mr. Lucas pay taxes on property that was supposed to have been earlier completed and wasn't. So he did comply to that, and he's captured, and the city captured some revenue that would not have gotten if we hadn't taken that posture. Number 2, the building industry, with the cost and availability of supplies too, has really been hurt badly with the impact of the COVID environment, and we read about it all the time, about shortage of supply, labor, and other materials. And I think his problem is really impacted by shortage of supplies and materials, and what we're really doing here is we're giving him, 3 months is what it is, an extension, not to hit him with a penalty. You obviously know he's going to finish it because he's got the majority of the structure. It's just some of the interior components and other things he needs, having difficulty getting it. So I would support consideration to a builder that's running into a pandemic that we haven't had before.
Yes, yes, Mr. City Manager.
Okay, thank you.
You had your hand up a couple times.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out, because some might expect Mr. Lucas would have been here for this. He made it as far as the elevator and then left me a message. I knew he has a family member who's hospitalized, an elderly family member. So John does send his apologies on that. That was my only point. The other thing I think he might have mentioned in his email, or I did in my memo, and again, I'm not going to sit here arguing this. It took way too long for these things to get started in the first place. That's why we have the $1,000 a month penalty that has, or payment in lieu of taxes, that has been getting paid like clockwork so far. But this is a unique set of circumstances everybody's facing, and a lot of people are delaying projects. He has affirmed that I haven't asked for documentation, but he's affirmed that 2 construction draws, they've spent about $800,000, and I don't doubt that given the status of where the buildings are. That's ultimately council's call, but I just wanted to let you know Mr. Lucas did extend his apologies for not being here tonight. That was his intent.
And just to help him, if he's not here, I'll just recap. The first unit, Bonnie, back to the point of being done, still needs just all the trim and inside doors, kitchen and bathroom cabinets, carpet, electric fixtures, blacktop, and landscaping, and that one's almost done. So it's like, I'd say 90% there. Second unit, they just finished painting, drywall, and started the sub-flooring, but it needs all of the stuff we just mentioned, plus it's got to do that. And the third unit is framed up in the process of finishing shingles on the roof, needs to be sided, plus all inside work. So that's why he's saying he's not going to get all 3 of them done by June 15th. He'll be lucky to get 1 done by June 15th. He needs a little bit extra time because of what Mark cited and what he's also cited to us before on getting supplies. But if you've gone by there, they're working hard, they're working fast. I don't know if knocking him on the knees right now is going to help him or hurt him or motivate him or not. But Adam?
Essentially, the payment in lieu of taxes was based on $1,000 a month.
Yes.
So he's still paying that. We're not tacking on the extra fee that was suggested had he needed extra time. Now, we obviously know there is a supply chain shortage. It's no secret. And I'm sure I know it's tough to understand, but he probably really is trying to get this all done. But if he can't get something, you just can't get it. And there's not a whole heck of a lot a person can do. In our business, we're running against the same thing. I want it all I want it, but I can't get it. And you can cry and you can whine all you want, but at the end of the day, you're just not getting it. And it's tough to finish something if you can't get the product in to finish the project.
Any other questions? Jeff?
Just to kind of tell Bonnie and Jay, it's definitely going to be supply chain. I just recently tried to get parts for a customer overseas. Normally I can get them in 7 days. It's a 90-day lead time.
Yeah.
So I can feel the pain. So
Yeah,
it's definitely supply chain that was out of his control.
Any other comments or questions? Bill?
I just want to remind everybody that
Bill, can you speak into the mic, please, for me?
he's probably paying 5 times as much for what he's getting than he would have in the past. That's how high this stuff is.
Yeah, so not only is he paying more, but things are taking longer to get. And then you got the trades. So you got everything slowing down a little bit. So, we got a motion. We have a second. Any other discussion before we go ahead and vote on this? So all in favor of extending the initial deadline for him to be penalized on June 15th if he didn't have all 3 done to at least September 30th, 2021 per his request and the circumstances that are happening around us right now with supply chain. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
No.
Okay, got 2 noes. Okay, did you get that, Jamie? Okay, thank you.
I'll just mention we'll do our level best to get an additional amendment prepared and back in front of you next Monday at the work session. So we get that.
And I would say not to add to the addendum, but I don't think you're going to have an appetite from the council if it's beyond September 30th. So we'll run out of excuses.
Yeah, but that's the direction you've given tonight, September 30th. If all 3 units aren't done by then, I'll leave it to Mr. Lucas to come and make his argument on that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
H, resolution adopting authorized representative on file applications for financial assistance from the Wisconsin Environmental Improvement Fund, Safe Drinking Water Loan Program, and Clean Water Fund Program for prospective 2022 water main, sewer, and lateral replacement projects.
These next two agenda items are very preliminary, but just as last year we made application for state environmental loan fund program assistance for the water and sewer under 24th Street, 25th, Madison, the Eggers Pond. Staff has submitted notices of intent to apply, and actually applications are due by the end of this month, and we're prepared to submit them for environmental loan fund financial assistance. That's low interest loan money for water and sewer work, and sometimes principal forgiveness of up to 30% of a project. For prospective projects, it'll be brought to the council, probably not all of them, but some of them, for next year's budget. That would be possible reconstruction of 17th Street from the bridge to the beach, possible reconstruction of Roosevelt Avenue, possibly a section, 2 blocks of water main replacement or rerouting on Mishcot Road because of some stagnant water issues in an area where we have no services along the new cemetery. Scattered site lead water lateral replacement like we're doing this year, and possibly, and this is more a placeholder, those of you that are on Utilities Committee, possibly an application for funding for moving ahead with a new dewatering system at the wastewater plant, the press that presses the liquid out of the sludge at the final step. We've been nursing that along. It's an expensive project. This relates to applications for funding for all of those. Action on either one of these resolutions in front of you tonight doesn't bind the city to doing those projects. It doesn't bind us to doing the borrowing. If you don't do it tonight, it would, or tomorrow night if we have to have an emergency meeting, if you don't do it very soon, it would preclude us from applying for or receiving any of that money. So these are necessary actions, including this first one designating an authorized representative in order to keep the door open for applying for and receiving funds for those projects if the council ultimately approves them.
So just to clarify, is just making sure that we're appointing the authorization to get the resolution to ask for the money, but not necessarily what we're going to do with it or what we're going to get, right?
Right. Well, we identify projects that we're going to do, and it would be those as we enumerate.
But there's no guarantee you're going to get money for all those projects.
It's no guarantee we'd get the money, and there's certainly no pledge that the city is going to do those projects. Council could decide to do some or none of them. But the one thing we know for sure, if we don't apply timely with the required submittals, we won't get any money.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to waive the reading and adopt that resolution authorizing the representative to file the application for financial assistance.
So moved.
Thank you, Bonnie. And second by Jay. I got your second, Jay. Is that okay? Any other discussion? A roll call vote.
Jay Remiker.
Aye.
Bonnie Shimulunis.
Aye.
Adam Wojcicki.
Aye.
Kurt Andrews.
Aye.
Mark Bittner. Jeff Delkey.
Aye.
Tracy Coach.
Aye.
Darla Leclerc.
Aye.
Bill Leclerc.
Aye.
The good news is that passed, and we already set up the second one, which is a resolution declaring the official intent to reimburse expenditures from proceeds of borrowing, prospective 2022 water main, sewer, and lateral replacement projects. I'm looking for a motion to waive that reading and adopt that resolution as well. And that's on page number 1, packet number 142. And you basically just explained what that would.
And I believe you do have an updated or revised resolution in front of each of you physically. The earlier one had a number that was way too low in it at $2 million as an estimated total cost, a corrected estimated total cost. And again, we're not committing that, you're not approving that spending tonight. It's up to about $4.5 million for the water and sewer underneath both of the streets if we do them. New water main on Mishicot Road if we do it, scattered sites, and the belt press work at the sewer plant. So that is the corrected item in the revised resolution that's in front of you.
Thank you. So I'm looking for a motion to waive that reading and adopt that resolution.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Jay. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Jeff. Any discussion regarding that part of it, knowing that it's it's a swag not to exceed 4.5 million based on all of the stuff that Greg mentioned. Whether or not we do all of it or not is up to future actions by this council.
It's a very prudent step on the state's part that they're adamant about approving the resolution of intent to reimburse up front. So nobody says, whoops, we went and spent money on something and we hadn't done the borrowing yet. So it's appropriate.
Any other questions?
And
Mark?
this is not new, it's not unique, it's something that we've done many times.
We've
in the past.
routinely done this anytime the city has accessed and made use of either Clean Water Fund or Safe Drinking Water Fund monies. These two actions, going back as long as I can remember, are prerequisites for that.
Hey.
Correct. And those programs have been very good to Two Rivers through the years.
Any other discussion? Okay, it's a resolution, so Jamie, you're up again.
Bonnie Shimulinas.
Aye.
Adam Wahusky.
Aye.
Kurt Andrews.
Aye.
Mark Bittner. Jeff Delkey.
Aye.
Tracy Coach.
Aye.
Darla Leclerc.
Aye.
Bill Leclerc.
Aye.
Jay Retmaker.
Aye.
Guys, for getting us through all of that, and we'll go to city managers' appointments and reappointments for boards, committees, and commissions. Greg, you want to walk us through the couple you have?
Yeah, we're making some progress on it. I think you have the volunteer information sheet in your packets for Jay Orvis as an interested citizen to be appointed to a vacancy on the Environmental Advisory Board. And also, we listed there other, hoping I'd have a couple more applications in. I did get the completed volunteer application from Randy Ammerman, our retired former police chief, for the Zoning Board of Appeals. That's to a 3-year appointment expiring May 1st, 2024. You all know Randy. I like people that have good, clear decision-making processes, especially, well, on all of our boards, but especially on the Zoning Board of Appeals. It only meets as needed. It might be once a year, twice a year, but when they do, it's typically, as the name implies, on appeal of a decision by the zoning administrator or the plan commission. And so I think Randy would be a very good addition. We still have 2 more vacancies on that and a vacancy on the Central Park West 365 Planning Committee that I'm looking for applicants for. So we'd get out the word again.
What are the other 2 vacancies, the planning committee and the other 2 you had?
2 on the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Zoning board.
Yep. Zoning Board of Appeals has got 5 members plus 2 alternates. So we're gaining, but we still have 2 vacancies there.
Our target is to try to get that done by the work session?
Yes.
Okay.
We are continuing to try to do that.
No vacancies on the planning committee,
Planning Commission?
planning commission?
No.
Okay.
No vacancies remaining on the Advisory Rec Board and some of our others.
So tonight we're approving both Randy and Jay then?
I would ask that you approve both of those as
A
recommended.
motion to approve the appointments as recommended by the city manager. Do I have a motion?
I'll make
the motion.
I'll
Thank
second.
you. And we got a second. So we got Jeff, motion, second. Adam, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Thank you. For information only, Greg, you want to touch base on those 2 items?
Yeah, you've got a work session next Monday, the 28th. I don't know if this works with council member schedules, but we did have some discussion at the last meeting of the Central Park West 365 Planning Committee about doing a joint session with City Council to review the current concept plan and preliminary cost estimate. Seems like there'd be no better place to do it if the weather cooperates than, say, convening a meeting on the stage in Central Park with that committee, and the consultant. The project is right around you. It'd be great if we could do that at 5 so we could devote some discussion in addition to having a regular work session agenda. The thought then was maybe we do a little brat fryer, we have pizza or something so we can, chow down a little bit and talk with the committee.
I like pizza.
I think he's bribing us with food.
Yeah. So with that, maybe you could meet early, but I wanted to throw that out if that might work for next Monday.
Anybody have heartburn with starting a joint meeting on Monday at 5 o'clock at the band shell, assume? That's where we want to meet?
And if you have heartburn, we'll bring Aunt Ass.
Then eat a little bit of a meal and then come over here for our follow-up meeting?
That would be the intent,
Okay.
yes.
Anybody can't make it?
No, I can make it, but I would like, is it possible that we could see maybe a recap or summary of what we're going to hear ahead of time so we get a little thought in advance?
We'll get the most recent concept plan and the cost estimate out to you with the agenda for the meeting.
I'm for the meeting at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, and I'll confirm with the committee that the council that that's workable, and we will have our design consultant. I confirmed he's available to come over next Monday.
It would probably be a good idea also, because the price tag's not exactly small, to also put in your thoughts on how you may attempt to get some grant money or where you'd go.
Yep.
That would help in looking at that number.
It's visionary. It's visionary.
Yes.
Yeah.
Adam, hold on, Adam's got a question.
I think we understand your work schedule sometimes makes that tight.
Anybody else have heartburn with getting there at 5? Okay, we'll be there. Whoever can make it there at 5, we'll be there at 5. Hopefully we'll have a quorum. We'll work right into the work session then.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
in advance for dinner. Pizza's a good idea. Local pizza places, they could all use the help.
It will most definitely be local pizza. No question there. Of course, the next regular council meeting conflicts with when most of the world is observing the July 4th holiday, or at least an extra day off. Fireworks are still on the 4th, but City Hall will be closed Monday. I think most employers will be. Is there any objection to the rescheduling? It's pretty routine, but does Tuesday the 6th work then for the next regular meeting?
Of the utility meeting.
Jim, have you planned for that potentiality that the Utilities Committee wouldn't meet on the Tuesday?
Hey, can we do a roll? Who can make the 6th instead of the 5th? Show of hands.
But always move it to the 7th if council, had a preference, or the 5th if you really insisted. Yeah. Okay.
I think we got a quorum either way. So if you can make it, great. If not, I know Tuesdays not exactly our normal schedule, so we'll go from there.
If I might, one thing I forgot to mention earlier when talking about the car show and cruise, for that event and hopefully for others this summer, arrangements have been made by the Main Street organization through UW Oshkosh, the entity over there that Jeff Soxie works with, to have UW Oshkosh students here doing person in the street interviews. I'm not sure the exact contents, but will be more or less, where are you from? How did you find out about the event? Some informal feedback on Two Rivers and the event. The intent is to share those and learn a little bit more about the visitors that come to these special events. So odds are, if you're approached by some young people with clipboards or probably tablets in hand, there's at least a good chance they have a legitimate purpose there and are with the UW Oshkosh helping Main Street out on that. So we hope we garner some very good information from that.
I think it's part of an internship program that we're going to get that information for free, really, which would be a nice thing for Two Rivers to know we're reaching out.
And we will still have a summer intern coming on early July, is that starting in Thursday, working with both Elizabeth and Whitney on some of our branding and communication strategies, especially as they relate to high schoolers and other people that might be more prone to use Instagram and other platforms versus, say, some of the age group represented right up front here who tend to be Facebookers and Telegraph or whatever we use.
Got it?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
No offense to the
anything
younger
else on
members.
information, Greg?
No, that's all I have. Thank you.
Closed session, do we need one tonight?
Briefly, I think on one topic related to possible property sale and assistance to development project, please.
Okay, we'll make it quick then. The City Council reserves the right to enter in the closed session for Wisconsin Stats 19.85, 1E, deliberating and negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investment of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. We'll talk tonight about possible city assistance to economic development projects or, as Greg mentioned, discuss the possibility of a property sale. Do I have a motion to go into closed?
Make the motion to go into close.
Thank you, Tracy. Do I have a second?
I'll second it, Kurt.
Thank you, Bill. Any discussion?
I just would note this is posted for possible council action on reconvening an open session relative to those items that were just identified. There is some chance, it's ultimately up to the council, that we would be asking for action upon reconvening an open. So any members of the public that are here assembled, if you are, you're all city employees, but even so, you're members of the public, would be welcome to stick around until the council reconvenes in open. We do end the televising and live casting of the meeting at this point, but there may be action requested upon reconvening in open.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, Jamie, we have a roll call?
Yes. Adam Husky.
Aye.
Kurt Andrews.
Aye.
Mark Bittner. Jeff Delkey.
Aye.
Tracy Coach. Darla Leclerc. Bill Leclerc.
Aye.
Jay Remiker. Bonnie Shimulitis.
Aye.
Okay, guys, we have a short and sweet.